Greetings everyone, my name is Dr. Jason Freeman. I'd like to welcome you all to my channel. And so up until this point, I've been reviewing or talking about each of the episodes of Loki Season 2. But for this one I want to take a different tact. So instead of kind of reviewing it, I want to talk about what this particular episode means for the future of the MCU. Now I will say there will be spoilers within this video. I'm going to talk about the specific things that happen and what these different events will lead to in regards to the next step, the next phases and steps of the MCU. And just off the top, I mean, I love this episode. This is one of my favorite things in the MCU so far. The moment, and again spoilers, just let y'all know, spoilers. The moment that Loki, the god of stories and plants, takes that step, takes those different timelines, puts them together, and creates Idris Sol, the World Tree. That scene to me was akin to Captain America, picking up the hammer of Thor, Mjolnir, in Endgame. So Loki, who was, eternally in his brother's shadow, now has glorious purpose. He is literally the center of the multiverse, where essentially his powers, his essence is holding everything together. And so this brings me to the first thing that Season 2, Episode 6 of Loki changes about the future of the MCU. It sets up the Kang Dynasty. So just to recap, when we first saw He Who Remains in Episode 6 of Season 1, he lays out what happened in regards to the multiversal civil war. Basically, on each branch timeline, a different Kang emerges. Some of those Kangs are peaceful. But the point is, you have these different conquerors, these different Kang variants who fight each other, and ultimately they destroy all of existence. And so what He Who Remains did, he creates the cosmic loom, where essentially he's regulating the growth of these different branch timelines by pruning them. And so they naturally occur, they happen. And so the only way to make sure that these lines don't go crazy and destroy everything is that essentially you prune off the different branches and kind of maintain a relatively small size for the multiverse. But with the destruction of the loom by Loki, and now he is again holding together reality with those different branches of the timeline, we now have these different variants emerging. We've seen one of them in Quantumania. Kang the Conqueror. We also saw in the end credits the rest of the different Kangs, and I don't know all the names. I'm not going to try to go back and do all that, but there's a whole, dynasty or kingdom of Kangs. They're all over the place, and they all are, from these different universes or different parts of the multiverse. And so, because we have this new tree, because they now exist, we see that the TVA is going to have to regulate them. And again, they mention the Kang from 616 adjacent, the one that we saw in Quantumania in the quantum realm. And so we now are going to see that these Kangs are going to become a problem. And so another change that Season 2 Episode 6 makes in the MCU is that the TVA is now here to stay. And so the TVA now is under control of the variants, those original variants that He Who Remains recruited, kidnapped, what have you. And so now they're out there kind of regulating things. And so it should be no surprise that at a certain point in different episodes, we're going to see, different movies, different properties, we're probably going to see some TVA people pop up. I mean, they know about these different Kang variants. They know what happens if they aren't kept under control. They're the ones giving us a fighting chance. So again, I would say before the end of, I would say maybe phase 5, phase 6, whatever the end goal is at this point, we're gonna see maybe some heroes from different realms come together and maybe under the umbrella or with the help of the TVA, fight back against the Kang Dynasty. We saw a similar thing in What If series with the Watcher. So basically he brought these different heroes from these different universes. For example, Captain Carter, the Thor, Thor in where Loki's not his brother. So we saw these different variants from different universes come together and essentially save the multiverse from Ultron. And so we may see some pretty cool combinations. I mean, we've seen one in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Dr. Charles Xavier alongside Reed Richards and these different, in the Captain Marvel Rambeau, these different kind of variants, different people in a particular universe who wouldn't normally be together. So again, we may see, as we're going to see with maybe Deadpool and Wolverine as one of these branch timelines. We could see Wesley Snipes as Blade. We could see Nicolas Cage as Ghost Rider. Just kind of pick your poison. We could see any of these variants. We've seen it already, so I keep bringing in pre-existing properties. Spider-Man. We saw 3 different versions of Spider-Man in the same movie, and it was amazing. And so with the way that it's set up now, with this multiversal tree, with Loki in the middle, the MCU, Loki in the middle, I think we're going to probably see different combinations of people anytime they decide they want to utilize the multiverse in a particular film. And so the third big change I think this episode makes in regards to the future of the MCU is that it really sets the bar for creativity really, really, really high for the MCU. And so ever since the early days of these MCU movies, I'll say going back to 2008 Iron Man, there has been this kind of formula that has really kind of dictated how these movies go. And so you start with the introduction of the hero, Tony Stark getting injury to his chest, with the explosion, and being kidnapped by the 10 Rings. Thor being this wild card, crazy, god is out there just causing trouble. You have this villain introduced who's basically an evil version of the hero. Think Agatha Harkness and Scarlet Witch. Though, of course, Scarlet Witch becomes a villain, but in WandaVision, she's the hero. So Agatha Harkness. Think Yellow Jacket versus Ant-Man. So you have this, this villain who's kind of a counterpart. Maybe throw a romantic, partner in there, romantic interest in there. Jane Foster, MJ in the Spider-Man movies. But you have this kind of romantic person that essentially the hero is going to either try to save or try to impress, what have you. A tragedy occurs, maybe someone close to the hero dies, but something is going to push the hero to take on the mantle of, MCU hero. Overpower the villain, maybe have, the villain finally achieve what they're trying to get, with powers, get maybe some, Infinity Gauntlet and some powers there. Overpower the villain so that it makes it nearly impossible for the hero to win. And you have this epic action-packed battle at the end between the hero and their villain counterpart. And then just when we think, the hero's about to be destroyed, a big portal opens up in the sky. Got to have that portal, or so, some major big thing happens, and then at the last moment, our hero wins. And of course, painted throughout, just dumped throughout is the MCU humor. Loki gets away from that. Loki, this series in particular, this season, it had a lot of twists and turns, a lot of unexpected things, and it didn't have the typical ending. Basically, Loki had to figure out, we have either the pathway of He Who Remains, where you basically use genocide as a way to maintain order, which of course is pulled right from our, real world, in which, these despots, like Saddam Hussein, for example, murders huge amounts of people, all in the name of control and order. Or you allow for this uncontrolled situation to kind of keep going as it is. Just kind of have no control or nothing there to kind of check the natural impulses or natural way of things, and it leads to destruction. And so Loki creates a third way, essentially, using everything you have that essentially allows us to make the choice. Are we going to kind of become despotic, or are we going to try to fight day in and day out to maintain this chaos that we call the world, or we call life? And so just the way that this show evolved and it changed, It was not formulaic. It was not, in my opinion, predictable. I know some people will say it is, but everyone's gonna, I knew how it was gonna end from the beginning, whatever. But the point is that this is a really creative, really interesting show. There are definitely parts that I thought were too jokey overall. When I mean show, the entire series, first and second season, this episode was great. But definitely this show as a whole has been one of the more creative, or if not the most creative aspects of the MCU. I would say WandaVision also is in that line. There was a lot of interesting things that happened there with that particular show as well. But this really sets the bar really, really high. As we have more shows going forward, when we do have the predictable formulaic thing, I think people will point to this show as, you don't have to go that way. We don't have to do the same thing over and over again. You can have a really strange, really creative show that ultimately is successful. Now, if you found this video interesting and or informative, please like this video, subscribe to my channel. Also, please share this video. And if you want to give your thoughts on Loki seasons 1 and 2, please leave those thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you all for your time, and have a wonderful rest of your day.